Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Melissa and I'm the owner of seasonandserveblog.com. In today's video we are getting our garden ready for summer and we are going to be planting all of our summer crops. It has been a super cold spring so far and it's still actually pretty chilly, but we can't wait much longer. We have to get all of our plants in the ground. So I'll be showing you how I plant all of my summer crops in our kitchen garden, and I'll also show you how I'm planting my dahlias because this is the time to plant dahlias as well. So if you want to see what I'm growing in my kitchen garden this summer, just keep on watching. So the first thing that I'm going to plant are my tomatoes, and this year I'm growing 11 varieties of tomatoes, which is kind of crazy, but if you know me, you will know how much I love tomatoes, especially garden fresh. There is really nothing like it. So in this raised bed here, I am planting all of my San Marzano tomatoes, and this year I'm doing 8 plants because I want to be able to harvest the tomatoes and make tomato sauce to keep throughout the winter. We did only, I think, 4 plants last year, which is still a lot, and we did get lots of tomatoes. So I'm going to double it this year and really make sure that we have enough tomatoes to last us throughout the winter. So here I'm taking the tomato plant out of its pot, and as you can see, it's been in here for quite a while, so these definitely have to go into the ground. And a quick tip for planting your tomatoes, I like to dig a super deep hole and bury the tomato plant up to its bottom leaves. You can bury the stem, as the stem will actually grow roots out of it and make the plant more stable. And for now I'm going to add some small stakes into the ground. These are just to get them started and stabilized a bit more. I will come in later on in the season and add some 6-foot tall cedar stakes, as these plants can actually get about 5 or 6 feet tall, which is pretty crazy. But when I do that, I will make sure I don't insert them near the base of the plant where the roots are. I will do it off to the side a little bit, just so that we're not damaging the plant in the middle of the summer. And of course, I always grow my tomato plants from seed, and I'm really happy when they get to this point, but I get even happier when they actually grow up and start to produce fruit. It is the best feeling in the world. So there are all the San Marzanos planted. It looks so good and I'm so happy. And there's one final thing that I'm going to do to add some stability to these plants, and that's to add some tomato cages. Now these San Marzano tomato plants grow super big, and when they're fully grown, these tomato cages don't really help that much. But I like to add them when the plants are a little bit smaller, just to let their leaves get a little bit of support as they grow. And then eventually the San Marzano will kind of outgrow its tomato cage, and it'll rely mostly on the larger 6-foot stake that I use afterward. So those are all the San Marzanos planted. Now let's move on to planting our other varieties of tomatoes. Next up, I'm going to plant my cherry tomato plants, and I have 5 different varieties that I'm planting in this bed. So I have a sweet million, a golden yellow tomato, purple bumblebee, sunrise bumblebee, and an indigo rose. So these are all different colors, all different sort of shapes and styles. I think they are super fun, and I love having a variety of cherry tomatoes available. I'm planting them the exact same way I'm planting the San Marzanos, so I'm going to bury the stem a little bit and stake them up and add the tomato cages to this as well. So if you want to learn a bit more about the different varieties of tomatoes that I'm growing this year, head over to my blog because I have an entire blog post on every single plant that is going in my garden this year. And I also grow everything from seeds, so there will be links to where you can purchase these seeds. And over in this garden bed, I am planting some regular sized tomatoes. So I have some yellow tomatoes, green zebra tomatoes, pink brandywine, prairie fire, a bunch of amazing things. So head over to my blog post to see all of those, and I will leave that linked in the description box below. Next thing I'm going to plant in the garden is some eggplant. Now, I actually forgot to start my eggplant seeds, just completely forgot. So I ended up going to our local garden center and I picked up 2 beautiful eggplant plants. I'm putting these eggplant next to our garlic. Our garlic is going to be coming out in about a month or so. It is almost ready for harvest. The eggplant will be able to grow really freely and fill in the space nicely. Now I'm going to water these in really good, and then we'll move on to planting our next plant. We're not moving too far to plant our next plant. Right next to our eggplant, I am going to plant some butternut squash. Now, as you can see, we have a trellis, and this is currently growing some peas on it. Once the peas are done, I want to be able to trail the butternut squash up and over the trellis, so there'll be beautiful butternut squash hanging off of that. I think that is going to be super beautiful. So I'm planting 2 butternut squash on one side and 1 on the other side, and hopefully they have enough space to grow, but I think it'll totally be fine since this is a vining plant. Next up, we're going to plant some more squash, and I'm going to grow them on this A-frame trellis that my husband and I made last year. This has held up super nice in the garden, and I love the weathered look of it. On this trellis, I'm going to be planting a red curry squash that I grew from seed. And right next to it, I'm going to plant this beautiful kabocha squash that we got from my husband's parents last time we were in Vancouver. This has grown so much, and it already has flowers on it, so this is going right in the garden next to the red curry squash. So there's going to be a little bit of a squash garden going on here, but I think it's going to be super nice, and I know the A-frame trellis will really help to support the vining squash. On the opposite side of the trellis, I have some more peas and garlic growing, and in amongst those, I am going to plant some pepper plants. I have some purple bell peppers that I grew from seed, and I have 3 of those here that are going in the garden. And then I also picked up these really fun candy cane peppers from the garden center. I wasn't planning on planting these, but they just look so cool, so I wanted to put them in the garden as well. So I got 2 of those. And right next to the peppers and garlic, I added in a second A-frame trellis and planted some cucumber seedlings at the base of it. Now, I grew cucumbers last year. They didn't get super big, but this is a much sunnier spot that I'm putting them in this year, and hopefully I will have better success. Now, I do have a little bit of space next to each side of the A-frame trellises, so I'm actually going to plant some flowers in here. So I planted a zinnia, and I'm also going to plant some sunflowers that I started from seed. Now, I think this is a good solution because getting into the middle of this L-shaped bed is kind of awkward, but I think the flowers will look really nice in there. It'll attract pollinators, and it'll use up the space perfectly. And in our next garden bed, we are going to plant some zucchini. We got this plant again from my husband's parents in Vancouver, and it is already growing little baby zucchinis on it, which is super cool. So this is a green zucchini that I'm planting, and then right next to it, I am going to plant a yellow zucchini. This one I grew from seed, and as you can see, there are little zucchinis coming in as well. So zucchini season is almost here. And of course, we have little Pearl here in the garden. She just loves being outside. She sleeps on the gravel, she sleeps in the flower beds, she basically does whatever she wants. And even though she can kind of get into trouble sometimes in the garden, I still love her and I love being outside with her. Next up, we're moving into the greenhouse, and in here I am planting all of my spicy pepper plants. I'm planting 7 jalapeno pepper plants that I grew from seed this year, and this is going in the back 2/3 of this garden bed. Now, I have so many jalapeno peppers because we absolutely love them, so we are planting lots again this year. Now, in front of it, in the front third, I am going to plant some bush beans. So I have a Royal Burgundy bush bean and a Maxwell Filet bush bean. I haven't grown either of these varieties, and I want to see how they do in the greenhouse. So this is going to be a little bit of an experiment, but I would absolutely love to get beans from the greenhouse. Now, I have a second garden bed in the greenhouse, and in here I'm planting even more peppers. Now, I picked up these super cute Cajun bell peppers from the garden center just to try them. I've never had them before. I'm also growing some Bikino peppers. This is part of a trial seed test for West Coast Seeds, so I'm going to see how they do in the garden and give them my feedback. Next, I'm going to plant some habanero peppers because we love our spice. And we actually love our spice so much that I am taking a big risk this year, and I'm going to grow ghost chili peppers. Now, this is one of the hottest peppers that you can grow, and I can tell you this is already super hot. When you actually smell the plant, it smells spicy, and if you touch the leaves, especially the new growth, it actually burns your hands, which is kind of scary. So I'm gonna make sure I wear gloves whenever I'm handling this. Hopefully it doesn't make the air in the greenhouse like super spicy and toxic in the summertime, but we'll see how it goes. I guess if worse comes to worse, I can move them out into the raised garden beds outside, but yeah, should be a very fun experiment. I guess we're getting into some fall vegetables, and we're starting off with corn. Now, obviously you have to grow corn in the summer in order to harvest in the fall, so it is the perfect time to plant corn right now. And to plant it, all I'm doing is digging a little trench with my hands, and I'm going to sprinkle in some compost. And corn are really heavy feeders, so you have to make sure that you add lots of compost to your bed or fertilize the corn throughout the year. So I'm going to do a little bit of both. So I'm just planting the corn, I'm planting it in a block so that they can pollinate each other and that actual ears of corn will grow. It is better to plant in a block than a single line because you do want the pollen to sort of mix around the plants and for them to pollinate each other. I actually picked up this corn from the garden center, and this variety is called Honey and Pearl, and it is a bicolor corn. It looks super pretty, and of course anything with the name Pearl I absolutely love because I'm obviously obsessed with my cat. So yeah, I want to try out this variety. I've never had it before, but the name totally sold me. But it looks really good, so we will see how this goes. And of course, when I was planting this corn, Pearl must have heard me say Honey and Pearl out loud, and she came over and watched me plant it. So cute. And right next to the corn, I'm going to be planting some pumpkins and squash because I think in the fall this will have a really nice little scenery to it and it'll look super cute. So the first pumpkin that I am planting is a spectre pumpkin. This is a white pumpkin and it looks super cute. And right next to it, I am planting a very tiny seedling. This is a taro squash seedling, and this squash is super special. It actually tastes like a cross between a taro root and a butternut squash, so I think that is super fun and interesting, and we grew them last year and we love them, so doing it again this year. And right next to the squash, I am growing some purple sprouting broccoli. This is a new seed that I'm testing out for West Coast seeds. And since I planted this in this video, it actually has started to sprout. So we were gonna have some purple sprouted broccoli really soon. I did run out of space to plant some more squash and pumpkins in that area, so I am moving up behind our San Marzanos and I will plant another spectre pumpkin and this beautiful black futsu squash plant. This I've never tried before, but I think it looks absolutely beautiful. You can just Google black futsu squash and see how gorgeous it looks. Super nice. So I want to try that out this year and see what it tastes like. And then I am growing another spectre pumpkin. This one is much smaller than the other one that I just planted, but it will soon grow and fill in this whole area. So that is it for the vegetable seedlings going in the kitchen garden, and now I want to show you how I planted my dahlias. I'm planting my dahlias in my separate cut flower bed that we have next to our patio outside, and I love how this looks in the summertime when all of the dahlias are in bloom. It just adds a nice little wall, a little bit of privacy, and tons of color. I have a bunch of different dahlias, some new and some old that I had from last year, and the older ones I actually kept in pots in soil in the greenhouse over the winter. I didn't store them in vermiculite or anything. They just stayed outside in pots, and as you can see, some of them have even sprouted and are starting to grow. And other ones I did get new for this year, so I am planting those straight into the ground. And if you're interested in growing dahlias at home and want to know my tips and tricks, click on the video in the annotation above. I did a whole video on how to plant dahlias last year, and I have this up as a resource for you guys. So definitely check that out if you're growing dahlias this year. Dahlias are one of my favorite flowers in the summertime, and I always struggle with deciding how to plant up this garden bed, whether I should just kind of mix all the colors or do it sort of in an arranged rainbow pattern. And I actually asked you guys on my Instagram stories what I should do, and you guys voted for a rainbow. So with that, I planted all of my red, orange, and yellow dahlias to the left side of the garden bed, and then as it went to the right, it went to the pinks, purples, whites, all those other fun colors. So I think the rainbow will look super nice, and I can't wait to show you guys what it looks like. And that is it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the like button as well as the red subscribe button below to see how my garden transforms over the summer months. Also, make sure to check out my blog to see all the different varieties of summer crops that I am growing this year, and also check out my Instagram to get more behind the scenes updates on my garden as it progresses throughout the season. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.